What's up guys, here we have a 2002 Yamaha G22 gas. This one here has a couple of issues, a couple of them that are actually going to be fairly simple. I don't think I've ever done this type of video on the channel yet, so we're going to be jumping into this real quick here. So look under the seat and see if you can tell me what you see is wrong. No? Let's shed some light on the subject. Oh. Now you're starting to see it. All right, so those of you that own Yamahas, you may have encountered this issue before. As far as I'm aware, Yamaha is really the only golf cart manufacturer that runs into this issue. So take a close look at the drive clutch here. You notice how high the belt is riding up on the clutch sheaves? Well, that shouldn't be that high. That thing should be riding down towards the center of the pulley and not up so high. So basically this cart, for lack of better terms, stuck in high gear. So when we turn the key on and we try to crank it over, we are in neutral. Well, second of all, the belt is slipping like an SOB. Let's tighten that belt up first so that way we can show you what's going on here a little better. All right, so on the Yamahas, at least most of the Yamahas, I think the older ones, actually I think they're pretty much all the same, except for like the early models. To adjust the starter generator, there's a 12mm set bolt right here. All you gotta do is crack that loose. And then you take your 10mm wrench and you open up this jam nut right here. And as long as the starter generator pivots smoothly when you do this, you shouldn't have to loosen up. I mean, if they're tight, you got to loosen these up. But there's these 17mm bolts on each end of the starter generator. So if you start turning this 10mm bolt here and it's really hard, stop. And loosen up those 17mm nuts, or those 17mm bolts, because if you don't, you will cause some damage. The two 17mm bolts I'm talking about, yeah, I'm talking to them. Yo, 17mm, how you doing? These 17mm bolts are right here. These are the, wow, those are way too tight. Pivot bolts for the starter generator. And these allow the starter to pivot on its frame here. Okay, you don't have to take them out to adjust it, you just need to loosen them. All right, so now you can go back in here and make your adjustment to this 10mm. And this basically is your adjustment bolt for the starter generator to take the slack out of the belt. Okay, once you get it tight, tighten up the jam nut on the 10mm. I believe that's, I can't remember what the threading is on that, but I'm fairly confident it's an M6x1 or an M5 by 0.8. I'm not 100% sure, I can't remember off the top of my head. And then snug these up. And they only have to be snug. You don't have to go cranking these things down to where they're squashing the aluminum, because they will crack if you tighten them too far. And then you tighten up your jam bolt there. And now you have a nicely adjusted starter generator belt. All right, so back to the clutch issue now. So when we crank it over, you see how that's kind of got a wobble to it? All right, so you can see how that's basically starting in high gear. So what that's preventing the cart from doing is shifting. I mean, these are CVT transmissions or CVT drive systems. Basically, that means continuously variable transmission. And in a CVT transmission, or CVT, you have infinitely adjustable speed. So, I mean, you have from minimum to maximum, but it's fully adjustable. And there's no, like, gears per se. There's no 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's just start and stop, and then you have that variable speed, that variable transmission. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first remove the cover off the clutch. Make sure the key's off. Make sure you can see what the hell I'm doing. So there's 3 10mm bolts on this. I think my battery's going dead. Oh yeah, we're down to 1 bar. Uh-oh. Like we're losing our muster here. Okay, I'll put that battery on charge. No problemo. All right, so once you get the bolts out, this cover should just easily slide off. You could already see the clutch starting to relax. And I could immediately see what our problem is. All right, so when the clutch relaxes, now you can see this weight is out past the roller. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually remove the belt. You gotta watch you don't get your fingers up in there, because if you do, the belt, that clutch will slam closed, and if your fingers are down in between the sheaves, you will be in for a hurting, because it will slam hard. Okay, so now that we got, hopefully you guys can see. So you see how this weight has flung out past, and I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this, but let me see if I can, no, it won't let me. But this roller here has wore out. I don't know if you can see that. We'll get a little closer to it when we get up on the bench, but there's a flat spot on it, and that's what's allowed that clutch weight to fling out past where it's supposed to be. All right, so let's see here. This one's good. This one's still down inside, but that roller does have a small flat spot on it. And this roller's good. Or, well, this weight's down where it's supposed to be. So we have one roller that has failed completely, and we're gonna have to pull this clutch apart. Thankfully, the clutch itself is in really good shape, so we could rebuild this clutch by just taking it off the cart. Taking it apart, we're gonna replace the rollers, all three of them, because we're gonna go to the trouble of doing this. We're gonna do all three in one shot. And the nice part is you don't have to replace the clutch. Now, the thing to keep in mind is if you take your clutch apart and either of the sheaves, usually it's this one, this side here, if it's cracked or split or damaged in any way, replace the clutch. Don't dick with it, just replace the clutch. It's much safer instead of having this thing blow apart on you. And never, ever, ever run this clutch without that cover on, because if them weights ever fly out of there, pieces will fly off this clutch like shrapnel. With all that in mind, let's get this clutch off the cart, and then we're going to get it over to the bench and disassemble it. This is a 22 millimeter. A firm. Okay, so we got a 22 millimeter. I'm gonna use my air impact because it's the smallest one I have. Let's see if I can get this on. These stupid air fittings suck. I don't like them at all. Those Morton or Milton or whatever the hell they are that I found on Amazon, they're terrible. They leak. All right, so what I'm gonna do is, let's see if we can get this down there. Slide the impact down between the battery. If you take the battery out, it'll be a lot easier, but I'm not gonna, so. There we go. I'm gonna leave the impact in there because I still need it. Back the bolt out. On some golf carts, you can't take this clutch out without basically taking half the damn cart apart. Easy go. And now you got to get your clutch removal tool. And guys, I highly recommend using a clutch removal tool for these things. A proper clutch removal tool. It will save you so much time, aggravation, and you won't damage anything as long as you do it right. Okay. Now what I like to do, which I haven't done in a while, is I need to put a little bit of grease on these threads. I like to use a little bit of red grease, the red stuff that's in the spray can. And it just keeps the threads lubricated so they don't get all nasty and screwed up. All right, so I like to hand tighten it in till it stops. 3/4 inch socket. Hope you can see through my big head, my arm here. I know it's a funky ass angle. Gotta lift this out, go to forward. There we go. And you don't have to go nuts. You just blip it. See what I'm doing? Oops, what was that? Air chuck, no big deal. There we go. You hear the snap, the clutch pops out. I I advise, you know, undoing the starter generator belt first. It takes a load off the clutch faces, and it just takes all that excess load off. You don't have to worry about it. All right, so now that that's done, we're done with our clutch removal tool. Lift the clutch out. Let's go over to the bench. All right, so now when you come over to your bench, I've been kind of dicking with a whole bunch of different things. That's why this place is a mess again. You're gonna wanna put your clutch into a vise. You gotta put the this part of the clutch down in the vise. Like so. Tight, but don't, you know, don't go nuts. Okay. Now what we got to do is we basically are going to separate this part of the clutch from the rest of it. It's just threaded on. So you get yourself a nice long tool and you put it in, and well, unless your damn vise likes to spin. Put it in there. Oh, come on. There, let's try that. You don't want to go, you know, shillelaghing or knuckling this thing real hard. You just want to give it enough so it... I'm basically using my cheater bar here and clamping that sucker down tight as I can. All right, so... Ooh. Sometimes it is a little tricky to get apart. You gotta just, a longer pipe would probably be beneficial. Ooh, there we go. Okay. It's on there good, so somebody's done this before, it looks like, because it's a lot tighter than it should be. It should not be this tight and hard to get off. This should just spin right off after a certain point. It shouldn't be this difficult. There it goes. Okay. Somebody must have put some thread locker on it, or they screwed it up when they did it. All right, there it goes. Okay, so this part just lifts right off. Yeah, they put thread locker on it. Okay. Problem. All the bits are going to fall apart as you work on it. Now there's a spacer here. You got to make sure this is on there. Let me pick up all the pieces that just went everywhere. So you're going to have these end caps. They just sit on here. There's nothing nothing to hold them in. Okay, these little black end caps. Don't lose them. There's going to be 6 of them. 2 on each pivot assembly. One's already fallen out, it's on the bench. Then you have this pin that pulls out. It should pull out easy. And then you have the roller assembly. This is the part that fails. This is garbage. You got to save the pins and those end caps. So here you go again. See here, you push the pin out, and then that roller is free. Okay. And that's basically just a chunk of machined aluminum. That's it. There's the roller right there. That's one of the good ones. Here, let me show you the one that's failed completely. See if I can find it here. Oops, kick the camera while I'm at it. So, see how this one has a nice flat spot on it right there? That flat spot is wore in there just enough to allow the weight, that counterweight, to fling out past it, and that's what's caused it to fail. It causes the clutch to get jammed in, like I said, high gear, technically high gear, but you know, that's just the way it is. Then all you need for these is CP-0017. You're going to need 3 of them per clutch. Thankfully though, this clutch is in really good shape, so there's no reason to replace it. We're just going to rebuild it. And I'm just going to thread that on there for a minute. The other thing you can do to kind of help with longevity with these things is put a little bit of grease all over the this stuff here, because it's going to be inside a cover, so it doesn't matter. Let me just get these all out of their packaging here. Boy, it is warm. It is really, really warm. Okay, so like I said, you're gonna need 3 of those. I'm gonna clean these pins off and put a little bit of grease on them and then put them all back together. It's not required to clean them, but you know, you're in here, you might as well take a little brake or carburetor cleaner, get the old crap off the, so I'm cleaning off the roller pins. See, these are just hardened steel pins. There's nothing nothing fancy about them. They're just hardened steel pins, and that's what allows those rollers to spin. But you clean them up, you know, put a little bit of grease on them. It is a moving part, and it is steel, though the rollers are basically softer than the pins. So, but make sure you don't lose any of these pieces because you need every bit of them to go back together. Okay, now all the pins are clean. Okay, so this is the grease I like to use. Somebody asked me once in a video, how the hell do you get grease in a can that sprays out? You get 2 + 2. This stuff here, not a sponsor, by the way. Focus, you bastard. There we go. Yeah, I love this stuff. We use this stuff at the golf course a lot. Let's see if we can get you a better zoomed in angle here. I got a roller. I'm gonna give it just a little spritz. Did I just paint the camera? No, we're good. Just a little. You don't have to go nuts here, but you just want to make sure that when you put the roller in, you have a nice lubricated surface. You don't want that crap being dry. Okay. I have a little bit on my fingers here, so that'll work. Put the pin in there. This can, usually you can ease on it, but sometimes you can't. So a little puddle there, just kind of work it. Get it all in there, and it looks like blood, this stuff. Okay. There's that one. There's been a couple of times where I've sprayed a little bit of this stuff. Like I usually lubricate the ball on the trailer hitch with this because it just works so well. And I've had people say, "Oh my God, did you hurt yourself on the trailer?" I'm like, no. No, I didn't hurt myself on the trailer. Okay. So now the hard part, well, not really the hard, but the harder part now is going to be to put these little end caps on. So you have these little guys here. I know, black on black, it's tough to see, right? These little guys, these slip over the end of those shafts. Oh, like so. And then like so. This is the easy part. Getting this clutch off and separated is hard, but it's not that hard. So now I have to flip this thing over like so. And then you got to try to get those all back together without falling off while threading it. There we go. And make sure everything squeezes together okay. Also make sure your weights are in before assembly. I did that once. The first time I did this, I forgot to fling the weight back in. I had it all back together. I'm like, God, son of a bitch. No, thread lock is not required because when the engine's running and this clutch is engaged, it's self-tightening. You don't need to go crazy nuts with that stuff. And then we'll put it back together and just give it a nice snug tightness there. You don't have to go nuts with this stuff, guys. So I'm going to loosen that up. I'm going to squirt a little bit of this stuff here. And this wouldn't be a bad idea to do on a regular basis. The clutch gets greased anyway. It has a Zerk fitting, so the internal sliding part gets greased. So why not grease your weights and your rollers? It's silly not to. I know somebody's going to say, you're not supposed to. But I'm going to say, I don't care what you're supposed to. Okay. All right, everything looks good from what I can see. A little bit of fresh grease will help. Okay, let's go get this installed back on the cart. All right, so I already went through the trouble of loosening the starter generator back up because putting the clutch back on when the belt is tight is very tricky. Gonna slip that over the shaft. Do not grease that shaft. It does not require it. Clutch on. Put the center bolt in. Take that off. Put our 22 millimeter back on the impact. Just give it a couple of blips. Okay. Take that off. Take this out now. Get it out of the way. Okay. Slide the sheaves out. So before, like I said, before we put the clutch back, or put the belt back on, I want to clean those. Also, when you put the cover back on, make sure you line up this slot here with the grease fitting slot that's on the clutch itself. Okay. And then it's just basically everything in reverse. Reinstall your 10 millimeter bolts. I like to hand start everything first. Come on. I've also noticed this belt is a bit ripped and wore. You see that? You can see that here. See how it's all chattered up and there's a chunk out of it right there. What was I doing? I was checking the belt number to see what the hell it was. BLT0015. I have that. I know I do because I just saw them. So we're going to replace the starter generator belt because I don't trust that one. I'm going to give it back to him though, in case he wants it as a spare for whatever reason, but it's failed as far as I can see. So BLT0015 is for the G22. It's for other carts as well, but I don't remember off the top of my head. Come on. Oh, it must be on compression stroke. There we go. Okay, so it's tight. That's good. So before I adjust that, I want to clean this clutch off a bit because I got a little bit of grease on it from my hand. So let me get a paper towel and some carburetor cleaner. This way we can make sure we get all of the grease residue off because it will cause drivability issues. Never spray it right on the clutch itself. Make sure you spray it onto a towel. Wipe both sides of the clutch off. Very good. Oh yeah. Because you do not want grease getting on that belt. Okay, over time, yeah, it'll burn off, but if you have the opportunity to clean it off beforehand, just do it. All right, so BLT0001 is the drive belt for this. It's for the G2 to 22, 4-cycle gas, 85 plus, 1985 and up. I want to show you something now, the difference between the two belts. So if I line up one edge, I'm going to line up one edge here. You can see, I hope you can see that difference as soon as it decides to focus here. All right, see, I'm lined up on this side. It's flush. You see that difference in thickness? Okay, now I'm flush. See that difference in thickness right there? That is going to cause drivability issues as well. So believe it or not, these belts wear out over time, folks. You got to change them. So you know what? We're going through all this trouble to give him a really good drivability. of this golf cart, we might as well change all the belts as well. Okay. Oh, that's much better. Because the belt is supposed to ride and barely touch both sides of the clutch when it's at rest. That's just how it's supposed to be. Okay. So now, I have to adjust the starter generator still, but let's see how it works. Not too shabby. All right, so I'm gonna shoot a little bit of grease in there and grease the rear clutch as well, the secondary or driven, because you know why? The machine is here, so I'll just do it. Just a couple pumps. You don't have to go crazy. And then make sure you wipe off that little bit of grease that's there. I gotta find the Zerk on the driven clutch here. There it is. It's hard to see the damn Zerk fitting on this. You gotta kind of get in here at an awkward angle and... Okay, that was a little too aggressive, but it's done nonetheless. Not like going that aggressive with the grease machine. The grease machine. Sound like from the 1940s. The grease machine. We're all greased up. Wipe that off. A little bit of grease I got on the belt. Wipe that off. There we go. It's only on the top edge, so it's good. Okay, this one's done. Let's tighten up that generator belt just a hair. Okay. See, now it's actually the right belt at the right tension. There. So we know it's gonna adjust properly. Just snug, you don't go cranking that thing down too tight because you will fudge some stuff up. Now we're gonna tighten up that's our adjuster bolt, slider bolt. That one, and that one. Okay, that's it. Cart runs. That's a new belts. It's a new starter generator and drive belts. This clutch has been rebuilt. Customer's gonna get this cart back. Drivability is gonna be much more improved now that we got everything situated the way it's supposed to be. So that's gonna be it for this one, guys. That is how to rebuild your clutch on a Yamaha G22, which should be the same. Actually, I'll tell you in a moment here. Those rollers will work on a G16 to 22 4-cycle gas 96 plus. So 1996 G16 to G22. So, all right guys, that's gonna be it for this one. Thanks so much for watching. As always, I really do appreciate it. Be sure to like the video if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel if you already haven't. Don't forget to ring the bell icon to be notified anytime I upload a video to the channel. Be sure to check the video's description for links to products I use every single day, including my Amazon store, social media pages, and website. Be sure to leave a comment in the comment section down below. And as always, guys, thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.